Don't let Unreal Engine 5 stop you from experiencing one of the all-time greatest stories in gaming on the Steam Deck. After that, Windows is learning from SteamOS, and I think it's actually going to result in better Windows gaming. And finally, let's talk about Halloween the video game, because it actually sounds pretty good. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm finally at the end of Elden Ring. I'm at the Elden Beast. I can whoop Ragadan, and everyone says Ragadan is like way harder than the Elden Beast. For me, it's the opposite. I can beat his brakes off, go into the Elden Beast fight with full flasks and everything. Something about his moveset just doesn't work for me. So if you got any tips, let me know in the comments below. But let's get into the first news story here, because unfortunately, Unreal Engine 5 continues to be a massive issue, not just for the Steam Deck, but for the PS5 and regular PCs as a whole. So the latest problem child is Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which is the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm surprised they let reviews come out so early for this game after seeing how bad the performance issues are. They only really sent it out for PlayStation 5, but the long and short of it is, whether you're on a PS5 or PS5 Pro, you're looking at 720p resolution that's upscaled to 4K, and it looks terrible because it's using an old version of FSR. And on the PS5 Pro, they're running the quality mode in performance mode. So like it drops super low resolution and PSSR is not doing the trick. It seems like a complete mess. And of course it is, because this is an Unreal Engine 5 game. It was honestly kind of surprising because this is a PS2 game being remade, and it seems like one of those situations where they're running Unreal Engine on top of the old game to make sure everything looks and runs correctly, but it's Virtuous, the same people who did the Oblivion remake, and last time I checked, that one still doesn't run all that well either. You can get it running okay on the Steam Deck if you use mods to strip out Unreal Engine 5 features, but like, you also have to use the lowest settings, and it's just not worth it at that point. Like, I don't even want to play that game on my main gaming PC because I don't want to deal with the stutter and the frame drops and the low resolutions and having to use DLSS on thousands of dollars of hardware. It's just not worth it. And I guess I'm going through what Oblivion fans went through, because like, I played Oblivion back in the day. I thought it was cool. I'm just not a huge like open world fantasy RPG kind of guy, but Metal Gear Solid 3 is one of my top 3 games of all time. I played 2 and 3 first on the Vita because, as you guys know, I'm a handheld guy, and it's just like one of the best stories in any game ever. It just hits all of the notes in terms of like what I want to see in an action game. It's really emotional. The setting is excellent, and like the fight with the boss at the end is one of the greatest endings to any game ever. So I went and I looked at the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, and not only has Konami actually gone back and updated it to make it run better, but there's a way you can get it to work even better on the Steam Deck, and it's not that hard. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to desktop mode and then Google MGSHDFIX, and then there will be a GitHub link that comes up as the first link. Download that file, then go back to Steam and go to the local installed files location for your Metal Gear Solid 3 HD game, and then just drag in the files that were in the MGSHD zip into that folder. It'll ask you if you want to overwrite them. Click yes. And then the last thing you have to do is add this launch command. It's right here somewhere on screen around my head, but if you don't want to pause the video and type it out, it's on the Metal Gear Solid HDFIX GitHub page. You can just copy and paste it, remove the quotes, or else it won't work. And then the final step I had to do to get this to all work correctly was go into the plugins folder and run the setup.exe. And then when it asks you to pick a wine prefix, just pick Metal Gear Solid 3, then just close it and you're good to go. It'll look like it's setting the resolution to 00, but that's your monitor's resolution. So once you do that, the game should launch at 1280 by 800p. And then finally, the last thing you've got to remember is that in the actual game, under options, set the resolution to original mode, and it'll take whatever resolution you put in the INI. I would do 800p. It also removes the black bars. It's a really good HD fix. And honestly, even though they updated the controls and the way Snake can move in Metal Gear Solid Delta, the first game looks really good in HD. So like, I think this is a totally fair replacement until they fix the HD version, you know, which will take months or even up to a year, judging by Konami's track record with fixing Silent Hill 2, which they still haven't. It still stutters. It still has major issues. So I would just play the original version, because then you're getting the one that Hideo Kojima worked on, and it still holds up. It's one of the best games ever made, and I absolutely love it. I'm in the Metal Gear mood, so I went back to my all-time favorite version of Metal Gear Solid, which is Peace Walker. I did not realize that back when I played this on the Vita, it was running at 20 FPS, and I couldn't believe it. So I looked into it, and yeah, that game came out and was locked at 20 FPS back in the day, and the animations are pretty good, like they're made to run at 20 FPS. I wish they released the HD version of Peace Walker on PC though, and not just PS3 and 360, because that one I'm pretty sure ran at 30 and it ran great because you can move your save back and forth from your Vita to your PS3 and play on a controller. It was awesome. I tried it on my Bazite PC and upscaled to 4K. It does look great, but at 20 FPS, it's just not good enough in 2025. I can't handle it anymore. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of potato mode fix for this game, but at that point, I would just play the original version. And you know, Metal Gear Solid 5 does look and run amazing on the Steam Deck. So if you're going to play one of the modern Metal Gear Solids, I would go for that one. Peace Walker, I hope, has a patch or something that'll allow it to run at 60 at some point. But yeah, the HD versions of Metal Gear Solid all work with this HD fix. So if you want to play the first game, the second game, the third game, it doesn't really matter. It's all going to be running a lot better on your Steam Deck with these fixes, and they all run at 800p, lock 60, no upscaling. So the silver lining is that people are kind of getting aware finally that Unreal Engine 5 is the problem and that developers just don't know how to work with it. Apparently, the reason every publisher under the sun loves Unreal Engine is because they have this sweetheart deal where your first $1 million of revenue or something is totally covered by Unreal and you don't have to start paying them a licensing fee until then. And then also all the big publishers like Konami, Sony, and everyone else who are using this, they'll make third-party deals on the side with Epic, I'm sure. So it's just a money thing at the end of the day. But apparently Unreal Engine 5.6 looks and runs better. I'll believe it when I see it because we're 5 years into this thing being out there and every game has the same problems: low resolutions, low frame rates, and stuttering. So until it's fixed, at least you have the old version of Metal Gear Solid 3 and it still holds up to this day. This video is sponsored by FlexiSpot and their Japanese joinery bed frames. My old bed frame was due for an upgrade, so I was excited when FlexiSpot reached out to sponsor the channel, and I am blown away by the quality of this bed frame. It uses Japanese joinery technology, so everything just slots together. Like the wood is pre-cut to fit perfectly, and it does. This thing is so sturdy. My old bed frame was really creaky, so I was really shocked to see that this one is dead quiet because the slats are held on by Velcro, and it worked with our headboard, which is great because the legs are turned inward, so you can put it right up against the wall or up against your headboard if you've already got one. In addition to that great tech, the other thing that's keeping it sturdy is the fact that it's made from solid rubber wood, which is why it's so strong and so durable. It's not going to break or creak when you lie down. And finally, it's cost effective and customizable. They have tons of different options on the FlexiSpot website. For the bed frame specifically, they offer better value for your money, like premium materials and design at a fraction of the cost. And you don't have to wait long once you order it because it's ready to ship within 2 days. Click the link below to experience the FlexiSpot bed frame for yourself. Don't miss out. Use my code DECK for an exclusive discount. Transform your sleep with comfort, convenience, and unmatched value. Huge shout out once again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. But let's get into the second news story here, which has to do with the Xbox ROG Ally. So people got hands-on with this at Gamescom, which is pretty cool. I saw Doom the Dark Ages was running at 60 and I was kind of shocked, and then I saw it's using ultra performance FSR, so it's like 560p upscaled to 1080p, which I'm assuming wouldn't look very good on a handheld screen. And then I read another article about the MSI Claw 2 that's going to use the Z2 Extreme that said the performance is basically identical between the Z1 Extreme and Z2 Extreme, which is kind of a bummer, but there were some positive updates on the Windows side because, you know, Xbox and Windows are finally teamed up and they're just looking at what works on the Steam Deck and they're throwing it into Windows, which will only help PC gaming on Windows. And they've stolen what I think is one of the best features of the Steam Deck, which is Steam's shader downloading ability. I know people are always upset that these things take up space, but they really do have a benefit. And what's happening is when someone plays through a game on their Steam Deck before you, if the game doesn't have built-in shader caching, the Steam Deck will cache those shaders. And then when they stop playing the game, it'll upload them to the cloud. And then when you go to play the game for the first time on your Steam Deck, it'll download those shaders. And the reasoning for that is that it eliminates stuttering, it eliminates frame drops, it eliminates the long loading times that you'll usually see when you get into a game, and finally, it will save you battery life. But the stuttering problem on Linux is nowhere near as bad as the stuttering problem on Windows. DirectX just has problems with it on Windows, and they're adding in the shader caching ability from the Steam Deck on Windows, which is awesome. Unfortunately, because this is coming directly from Microsoft, I think this will only roll out at first on the ROG Xbox Ally and on the Xbox app, but it's a good silver lining for people who have Game Pass or, you know, play games on the Xbox app, because it'll eliminate a lot of time it takes to just boot into a game, and it should hopefully get rid of shader cache stuttering. One game I'd love to go back and play with the shader cache is Dead Space Remake, because on PC, anytime an animation happens the first time, it logs that shader and causes a 1 second stutter, which really blows slows. That game has shader caching when you launch it up, but like it just doesn't get all the shaders or something, and EA Motive abandoned it without fixing that issue, so it's never really been resolved. But Windows doing this will fix that issue. But I do know that on Steam, it only works if someone has the exact same configuration as you, which is why it's not really a benefit on Windows Steam. So like if someone has the same pre-built as you and plays through a game, then the shaders will upload, but they also have to be on the same driver versions. Like it has to have a lot of combinations exactly line up for it to work correctly. But with the Steam Deck and Steam Deck OLED, it's a bunch of people gaming on the same hardware, so the shaders can just download for everyone. I'd love to see it become more universal, and apparently Windows was holding that back. So if Microsoft is actually investing on getting this up and running, well, that's good for everyone across the board, because until SteamOS works with NVIDIA, until we get the Fremont machine, until we start getting pre-builds and other manufacturers making PCs that use SteamOS, Windows is something that a lot of PC gamers are going to have to use if they want to have a handheld and a desktop PC. So to see Windows kind of looking at what works on SteamOS and then add it into Windows updates, that's only a good thing. And it encourages Valve to be more competitive with them in other areas. So like, it's awesome. It's good to have competition between Microsoft and Valve, because at the end of the day, no matter which platform you're playing on, you're just going to get a better experience no matter what. And that's what I like to see. But going back to Unreal Engine 5 and hopefully 5.6 actually fixing games, I hope this game runs well. And of course, I'm talking about the Halloween game. So if you've watched my horror news channel, which yes, is linked down in the description, you've known about this game for a very long time. I basically talked about exactly what it was going to be around 4 years ago on my Halloween channel. So I'm really excited to see it actually get revealed and look awesome. So this is coming from IllFonic, who are the people behind the Killer Clowns from Outer Space game. They're the people behind the Friday the 13th game. And now they're taking control of the Halloween IP to basically make the Friday the 13th game in the world of Halloween, but they're taking all that experience that they got from their last two games. So hopefully this one will launch in a better state than Friday the 13th. They're doing a very similar thing to Friday the 13th as well, where they brought back Kane Hodder to play Jason in Friday the 13th. Nick Castle is reprising his role as Michael Myers in the Halloween game, and it's coming out next year, so it's really right around the corner. If you've played Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you've played Dead by Daylight, if you've played Friday the 13th, if you've played Killer Clowns from Outer Space, you should have a rough idea of how this game works. It's asymmetrical horror multiplayer, so one person will be under Michael's mask, and then the other players will be survivors. But the maps are one-to-one recreations of different areas of Haddonfield. If you've seen screenshots, they've shown off Smith's Grove, they've shown off the Myers house, they've shown off the infamous street where the final showdown between Laurie and Michael takes place. And the best part is, because these games come out, get limited support for up to 2 years, and then abandon the games when the player base dwindles, a lot of people have been begging them to start including single player modes. They are including a single player mode in this Halloween game, which is good, because even if the player base dies off, you'll still have a way to play it. It's still up in the air what the single player mode is going to be, but if you've played Evil Dead or you've played Friday the 13th, you should have a good idea of what this is going to be. I'm assuming that because you're going to play as Michael Myers in it, they're going to just recreate moments from the movie. So like chasing Laurie across the street and then facing off with Dr. Loomis, escaping from Smith's Grove. Just any big moment from the original movie will show up as a single player level. So like if they also add in challenge mode where you have to kill all the survivors in a very specific way, that could be a good way to keep this game alive a little bit longer than it probably would if, you know, they ran it how the other ones were ran, which was not good. If you played Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're probably not happy that Gun Media is involved, because they did not listen to their player base at all with that game and basically told them, we're the developers, we know what we're doing. We all saw how that turned out. But it turns out that they're just coming in for an advisory role to make sure all the movie license stuff is figured out correctly. And they did work with IllFonic on Friday the 13th, which people really did end up loving. So overall, I think this is a really positive looking game. It is Unreal Engine 5 though, so I hope, you know, that they take the time to actually have it run correctly, because there's nothing worse than, like I said in the first news story, than getting a new Unreal Engine 5 game and finding out you can't run it. Thankfully, there are examples of horror games using Unreal Engine 5 that work and run great on the Steam Deck, ironically with Killing Floor 3, which by all accounts should not work as well as it does on the Steam Deck. Like, you can get 40 FPS all day long and keep the graphics relatively intact. And like I mentioned, I talked about this game on my Halloween channel and basically said what it was going to be like 4 years ago. So I think this one's been in development for a long time, but we'll just have to wait and see. I am very excited for this game because it's Halloween. As you can see, I love Halloween. I have a mask over there as well, but the game I'm most excited for in the horror IP world is Hellraiser Revival. I think that's the approach I wish this kind of took. So hopefully this comes out and then they can do DLC updates and everything, but I hope it's not the last we see of Halloween in gaming. Let me know if you're excited for it in the comments below. But anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.